A simple trip to the grocery store has turned into quite a nightmare for German consumers. We'll tell you why. Watching DD India Live, I'm Tanvi Taneja. Over the past few years, a simple trip to the grocery store has turned into quite a nightmare for European consumers, especially for German consumers. The country used to have really low food prices, but they've gone up in the recent past. Lars Halter is with Deutsche Welle and he joins me from Berlin now. Lars, who's to blame for the higher prices?
Thanks for having me. Well, that's an excellent question. Indeed, it is the question a new study by German economic paper Handelsblatt has been looking into, because for the past couple of years, consumers were wondering if producers had raised their prices or if retailers were to blame. Of course, those two parties simply blamed each other. Well, now the not entirely surprising answer is both are indeed to blame for food price inflation in Europe. Let me give you some names and some numbers. Now, first of all, for an overall look, prices for food and non-alcoholic beverages were up more than 12% in 2023, and going back to 2020, pretty much before the time COVID and then the energy crisis hit, prices are actually up by around a third. That's of course much more than regular inflation, and it put a real strain on people. Now, this new study I mentioned found that Europe's largest grocery store chains, in Germany that's Rewe and Metro, there's Britain's Tesco, and in France Carrefour, they were able to raise profits by 3.8%. Meanwhile, the big food producers like Nestle and Unilever raised profits by 3%. So in both cases, those higher profits were evidently achieved on the back of consumers.
So that means everyone's just getting richer in the European grocery business, Lars?
Almost, yes. Well, the big ones are. There are, however, losers in the game too. The study found that those food producers with revenue of less than €1 billion, you could say that's mid-sized companies, actually saw profits drop by 10% in the past year, and that was following another year of lower profits too. So why is that? The experts are saying that as prices rose, the relations between producers and retailers went downhill. Each side was in it mostly for individual profits, and that led to some supermarkets delisting products if the producers weren't giving discounts. And it led to some producers not delivering to grocers if they weren't paying enough. Now, this cat and mouse game worked for a while, but only for the large companies. A multi-billion euro corporation, of course, can afford to walk away from a retail customer for a while. A much smaller company can't. So they got squeezed.
Lars, but what's behind this aggressive effort to raise prices?
That's easy for both retailers and producers. It's pretty much the same. They're saying that they have to deal with higher cost for rent, for labor, for ingredients, and yes, of course, especially for energy. And it's true, those prices all went up, but the study found too that they didn't actually rise as much as to support the kind of prices that retailers and producers were actually seeking for their products. Be it as it may, food inflation is a tough phenomenon for consumers to deal with. We're not talking about discretionary spending here after all. Prices go up on certain things, well, maybe you just don't buy it. Prices go up for food and beverages, you might want to buy a bit less, but consumers can't stop buying groceries, so they're feeling the pinch.
Thank you, Lars Halter, reporting from DW, Germany. All right, now on to some weather updates.